Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and I'm looking at a book today from Informer. It's now in a new edition. It's called Maritime, Fraud and Piracy, second edition by Paul Todd, who's an academic, and a very good one at that. We've written a review, my wife Elizabeth, I've written a review on Flickr and the websites, and we've given it the title, Sadly, this is very much a book for our times. So I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. This is the book here, blue cover. You've got various other things. You've got a nice little preface and then a short number of chapter headings. You've got a little bit of case law. Then you've got the actual book itself, and what you've got here, this is the first chapter, you've got paragraph numbering at the sides and then of course detailed footnotes at the bottom. You've got a list of appendices starting off here with piracy in international law, Appendix A, running through to a detailed and very useful index at the back. It's about 300, just over 300 pages long. It's a light book, but it's a very useful one, and it's got a lot of detail in it, which is exactly what we're looking for. You may have seen the flyer, which has been produced by Informer, which covers the new aspect, the new edition of what we're talking about. But let me just address some of the issues. The purpose of this Informer publication is clear from the outset. It's a focus on how maritime fraud directly impinges on contracts for international sale and carriage, documentary credits and marine insurance, and is directly relevant to all involved in international trade and international crime. It's a timely publication in our view in the second edition because piracy in particular is never far from the headlines and has changed emphasis as a form of international outrage over recent years. There have been increased random attacks and kidnaps which have given rise to new forms of legal consequence, moulded differently from what I've described as the more traditional violent thefts of cargoes and ships at sea. The book's got 7 chapters, and the first begins with Piracy Today as the new chapter to highlight the growing international crime problems. Todd then goes on to cover the 5 main topics of the book. But do start by reading the preface, because that sets out the trail of events since 2003 and why he's changed the emphasis of the book a bit. It's a preface which conveys the horror that is piracy today and the essence of the problem, which is maritime crime. Thankfully, Todd says he's made no attempt to be politically correct here, but as an academic he does tell us about the use of the male and female tags. He does it rather well, and we even have reference to Anne Bonny. Of course, the banks remain as it, news which we are assured the hard-pressed taxpayer will be delighted to hear. The 7 appendices which I've shown are extremely important and useful, and they cover everything that you really need to know about within international trade and issues. And it's a must, certainly, for the IT age, with the final part of the appendices dealing with the electronic signature regulations. Todd draws a number of conclusions from some of the chapters, but what is so refreshing in our view is that he has real grounds for optimism that the fight back against piracy and the intractable problem of random hijackings might be successful, although it's clear that the international community is barely reviewing the surface of this problem, which is as much about crime as trade, and it's a sort of lacklustre approach to future international agreements. Of course, the same can be said for both bribery and corruption, policing the internet, and so on. Let me conclude by saying that one thing's clear. Paul Todd has, sad to report, basically because of its reality, produced an excellent new edition of this needed book, which gives very much part of our times as a sort of statement and reflection on what's going on. He gives us a detailed commentary as well on how marine fraud has been consumed by this form of terrorism, which has reverted back to what we call piracy and continues to affect so much within the law of marine insurance generally. Informer excelled here with this title as modern publishing pathfinders in our view to actually combat this menace from the deep with an important legal statement of the current law, and that's something which I think both the academic world and us as practitioners will find helpful. So thank you to Informer and particularly to Paul Todd for this new edition. Bye bye.